What's up, people? Welcome back to Chris Chats Comics. My name is Chris Gonzalez, and on this late night episode of Single Issue Sundays, I'm going to be going over 4 issues today, and 2 from Marvel and 2 from DC. So let's get into it. So welcome back, and Single Issue Sundays is the video series where I recap, discuss, review the issues that I picked up on this past Wednesday on New Comic Book Day, and you can check out my haul video, which includes these issues that I'm going to be going over, and I do some unboxing as well, so you can check that out. And I sometimes on Single Issue Sundays I will go over digital issues that I read as well, but no digital issues this week. It's just going to be the 4 physical issues that I highlighted. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one is Bleeding Hearts. This is issue number 3, and this is written by Dennis Camp. The artwork's done by Stefan Morian. The colors are done by Matt Hollingsworth, and the letters are done by Hassan Otsmaid Elha. And I really enjoyed this issue. I think this might be my favorite issue of the series so far. And we shift back to our protagonist Poke's perspective. And after issue 2, we were pretty much going over the backstory and the perspective of the 2 human characters, Jan and her daughter Rabbit. And so we picked back right up with Poke. He is trying to get Jan and Rabbit to be quiet because they would attract the zombie horde to the school that they're staying in right now. And yeah, I just thought the artwork was done really well. And when in this highlight, since again Poke, his heart started beating again, and he starting to feel these feelings and empathy towards the humans that he doesn't really understand, and he's conflicted with all these new emotions, but still he doesn't understand Jan and Rabbit when they talk. All he hears is these screeching sounds. So I thought that was a pretty creative way to show what he hears and his perspective and growing perspective on the humans. So he's trying to get them to quiet down, and they're not listening because again, Jan, she's terrified. She thinks that Poke is going to eat her, and Rabbit, her daughter, feels differently. She actually recognizes that Poke is being friendly to them. And so Poke, he still tries to convince them, but nothing's working. And he forgets that he has to go to this meeting with the Horde. So he pretty much blocks them, he blocks them into this gymnasium room, this equipment room, so they don't escape, so they can be safe while he goes to the Horde meeting. And again, Jan, her leg is still injured, and I'm really digging the artwork by Stefan Morian. Look at this great double page spread here, just of the Horde meeting. I just like the details of the different zombies. So, and I also this issue I really recognize Hassan's lettering. Again, he's one of the best letterers in the game. So I really appreciated that in this issue, but just the artwork is pretty gorgeous, and I feel like it fits the tone of Camp's story. So, and yeah, we just get more insight into the dynamics of the Horde, and we got a lot of that during the first issue, but we dive more deeper into that in this issue. And they attend this meeting just, for the sake of it. And we cut back to the school again. Jan, she is trying to escape. She believes that they're not safe, but Rabbit is trying to convince her mother that, hey, like this Zombie Boy has left us food. He's trying to be friendly, but Jan is having none of that. So she managed to escape this equipment room. So they leave the school eventually, and Jan, she wants to convince Rabbits that, hey, our whole plan was to travel to California to go see the redwoods, so let's do that. So they're trying to leave, and as they leave the school, they see that the horde of zombies are surrounding the school. They're approaching, and they can't escape. And then to prevent, so yeah, I love the artwork. Artwork's really good. And this was pretty devastating. Jan, she feels like it's the end for her. So she has a gun, and she feels that she only has one bullet. And I'm not sure if you guys can see, but encased on the bullet is the Dennis Camp's name and Stepan Morian. So I thought that was a cool little detail. But this page was pretty devastating because Jan is prepared to kill her daughter because she doesn't want her daughter to essentially be eaten alive. But then Poke, he distracts the horde and he leads them away from the school, and once again he saves them, and Rabbit recognizes that, and Rabbit again tells her mother that, hey, Poke is leading them away, he saved us once again. So that after that, Jan and Rabbits, they go back to the equipment room in the school, and that's pretty much where the issue ends. So again, I just thought another really fun issue of Bleeding Hearts. Again, it dives more into the horde community and their dynamics, and then again, I love the banter between Poke and how he still can't understand Jan and Rabbit when they talk. So I just thought this was really fun. It's not, again, this series isn't as cerebral as Dennis Camp's other works, but it's a really enjoyable read. It's a different take on the zombie story, and I'm really digging it. So that was Bleeding Hearts issue number 3. And then the next DC issue I'm going to go over is Green Lantern Corps. This is issue number 15. And this is written by Morgan Hampton, and the pencils are done by Fernando Passari, and the inks are done by Claire Albert. The colors are done by Arif Prianto, and the letters are done by Alan Sharp. And this issue, there's several storylines going on, but the one involving John Stewart I thought was the most compelling. He is on Kurigar. He went with his girlfriend Katma to make her feel better, but they run across Soranik, Sinestro's daughter, and she was possessed by Parallax. And so again, part of John Stewart's mission is to get the emotional entities back on Oa, so he convinces Parallax to take his body over, and that's kind of backfired, and Parallax is trying to feed onto John Stewart's fear so Parallax can mature into his final form, essentially. So this issue just dives into the psyche of John Stewart and going through all his fears and what John Stewart, he feels a lot of guilt for all the bad stuff that's happened, between Katma, his girlfriends, his mother dying, his sister becoming dying to become a construct, just a lot of bad stuff. And I think this is Morgan Hampton's best written issue. Again, diving into John Stewart's fears, and then it's not his real mother, but a construct or consciousness that was residing in John Stewart's ring essentially comes to life and tries to help John overcome his fear and overcome Parallax. And all while that's happening, John Stewart, the charge on his ring is almost empty. So once it hits 0%, then the ring will reset, and his mom's consciousness it'll disappear forever. So it's like a ticking clock throughout this issue, and they're trying to defeat Parallax before the ring needs to be recharged. And meanwhile, on Kurgar, Soranik and Katma, they're doing their best to take care of Parallax on their end. So, and it goes into a little bit more of Soranik's. And if you're familiar with previous Green Lantern stories, Soranik, she's dealing with her own fears. She used to date Kyle Rayner, and there was a villain, Sarko, I believe his name is. He came from the future, and she had to essentially kill him, I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but really digging the artwork by Fernando Parson. I really like when he's on interiors. I love the details and that he gives to each characters. And while that's happening, Guy Gardner, again, he assembled a team to retrieve the other emotional entities. This one, the Compassion one, I think his name is Proselyte, something like that. Yeah, Proselyte. So and they came across this Biots, not sure how to pronounce it, but the Manhunters have rebuilt this world, their home world, I guess. And so the team that Guy Gardner assembled, consisting of Sinestro, Aya, Joe Mullen, Ellie, Stewart, Larfleeze, Razor, they all go to this planet again to seek out the different emotional entities, and they have to defeat these Manhunters. And so Aya, she uses her this technique that they learned in the previous issues. I forgot what it's called. Pretty much Aya, while she was inside the Manhunter ship satellite, she learned a lot about them. So she uses the technique pretty much like a astral form to possess one of the Manhunters, and she takes a lot of them out. And so they find out where the Manhunters are holding Proselyte, and they figure out that the Manhunters, they're looking to capture all the emotional entities. And it keeps cutting back and forth with the internal struggle that John Stewart is facing, trying to overcome his guilt and his fears. And this was a really emotional issue, like a lot of character development with John Stewart's character, and I really appreciated that. And again, it's just going through all the areas where John Stewart feels like he's failed, and his mother is consoling him and telling him like, hey, you're human, John, you're not going to be perfect, you have this perfect idea about yourself, and it's impossible to maintain that standard. You're human. So I just thought that was a really touching moment between the construct of his mother and John, and then he finally is able to, with the help of his mother's construct, to defeat Parallax and prevent him from taking over fully of John Stewart. So Parallax, they capture Parallax, and then meanwhile Aya, while she's in the Manhunter, they defeat this particular group of Manhunters, and they find Proselyte here in a weakened state. But it is revealed that the Manhunters potentially tricked Aya and the rest of them, and they tricked her. They essentially baited her into using her astral form to, get out of her body so they can take her body over. So now, since the Manhunters, their objective now is that they're going to create copies of Aya's body so they can, you know, take over and try to capture the rest of the emotional entities. And that's where the issue ends. So I thought this was Morgan Hampton's best written issue of Green Lantern Corps so far. Each storyline was really compelling, especially the one involving John Stewart. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue of Green Lantern Corps. I think it's just getting better with each issue. So shout out to Morgan Hampton. And now let's move on to Marvel. And we got Iron Man. This is issue number 4. And this is written by Joshua Williamson. The artwork's done by Carmen Carnero and Jan Pazaldua does some of the artwork. And the colors are done by Nolan Woodard. And the letters are done by Joe Caramagna. And I thought this was a pretty solid issue, better than last issue. And we go over a little bit of how Adam Ware, the winner of the Tony Stark Award, how he's building technology to try to communicate, and it just shows some of his backstory and how he's always been this compassionate person, especially with his students. So, and then we get into how Fixer, he's starting to become jealous of Tony, and he feels that he is the solution to AIM's problems. He feels that with him and Madame Mask, that they can take over AIM, but Madame Mask doesn't feel that way. So he's starting to get angry at Madame Mask, and Tony again eventually is trapped now on this helicarrier. And I like the panel layout on this double page spread, and I thought it was pretty cool. So the artwork by Carmen Carnero has been the highlight of this series so far, and I'm really digging her artwork. And so in this helicarrier, Tony, he's trapped, he's a prisoner now, and it's stated that there's a combination of Mysterio, Mojo, and Arcade's tech to create like these illusions. So Tony doesn't know what's real and what's not. So we did a fun page here with an illusion of Spider-Man, and so, but yeah, so eventually Adam Ware, he hacks this suit, this armor that Tony made, and they're able to communicate, and then eventually they're able to further communicate through this projection essentially of their minds. And this is where the artwork changes to, I think, Pazaldua's artwork. And yeah, it was a little jarring, the change, so I'm not sure if this was intentional or if Carmen, she just didn't have the time to finish the artwork. But yeah, you can really tell that it's a different artist, and I just thought it was a really jarring change. But it does go back to Carmen's artwork eventually. And then we just get this quick couple pages back at Tony's base in the desert, and with Pepper and Tony's associate Melinda, and they're trying to figure out where Tony is. And this character, Citizen V, that saved Tony back at Madripoor, he comes back and he retrieves some item that Tony apparently stole, and don't really get more info with this character. So I'm a little curious to see like who exactly is Citizen V, what's his relationship with Tony, what did Tony take from him. So still curious about that. And then again, we just go back to the helicarrier, and then Tony, he figures out how to escape. So he essentially tricks Madame Mask and AIM with his armor, but Tony's not in the armor. So with the help of Adam Ware, they escape. But again, the artwork really, really good. Really good. So eventually they get the remaining scientists who are still alive, because we find out that some of the scientists that were captured were killed. AIM pretty much pushed them to their limits, and they killed some of the scientists. So it gets pretty dark. But eventually, one of the scientists, they had planted a bomb on the helicarrier, so the helicarrier is going down. And while they're trying to escape, Adam Ware gets hit by this laser, and it's revealed that Fixer has created his own Iron Man armor using the weapons and the technology that the scientists developed when they were under duress. So that's pretty much where it ends. So it's going to be Tony versus Fixer in this advanced Iron Man suit. So again, thought this was an improvement from issue 3, and I'm still enjoying this series. If you like the MCU's version of Iron Man, you'll definitely will be into this. And the artwork, again, incredible by Torment Carnage, and I feel like Joshua Williamson, his writing's just heating up, so I definitely recommend Iron Man, and that was issue number 4. And the last Marvel issue I'm going to go over is Amazing Spider-Man, and this is issue number 26, and this is part 7 of 9 of the Death Spiral crossover event with Venom, and this is written by Joe Kelly, and the pencils are done by Francisco Manna, and Ed McGuinness does some pages in this as well, and Francisco Manna does his own inks, and I believe Mark Farmer does the inks for Ed McGuinness, and then we got Marcio Menez and Eric Arciniega doing the colors, and once again the lettering is done by Joe Caramagna. And then so I thought this crossover event has been pretty good, pretty solid, and so we get some insight finally into Torment's backstory, and after 7 issues we've had no idea who Torment is, what really his motivations are, other than he has to kill the families that's tied to Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Eddie Brock. So we finally get some insight into his backstory, because Torment has bonded with the Carnage symbiote. And look at this, really cool double page spread. So I'm really digging Francisco Manna's artwork. It reminded me of Pepe Larraz. I think after seeing this artwork, I feel like Francisco Manna should have been the permanent villain artist instead of like John Romita Jr. And just seeing this art, it's like, where has Pepe Larraz been? Like, is he just off the book now? So I don't know. I know he's doing the upcoming Spider-Man, Superman crossover story for the DC Marvel thing, but is he gonna come back to this book? I'm not sure. I hope he does. But so we get some cool action sequences with the Torment as he's has the Carnage symbiote fight Spidey, and I'm really digging the artwork. We jump back to Dylan Brock. He's with Venom, and they're trying to figure out what to do next, and they got to go find Spider-Man and Eddie, because Eddie, he's critically injured now. He needs to go to a hospital, and again, I'm just really digging the artwork, really digging it. And again, Joe Kelly's run so far has been hit or miss for me. He tries to utilize a lot of humor, but some of the humor just does not work for me. But so Spider-Man, he's trying to convince Venom that they need to help Eddie, even though both the Venom symbiote, and Mary Jane really don't fuck with Eddie like that. So I just eventually they get Eddie to the hospital, and Torment, really sick design, really. So Carnage is trying to convince Torment that they need to be murdering, but Torment's like, hey, if we're going to be bonded together, you have to follow my rules. I still have to complete these spirals. Once I do that, again, you can do whatever killing you need to do. So eventually they attack one of Peter's family members, Peter's first cousin, which is weird, but Peter prevents that. And then they eventually go for Aunt May. So it looks like next issue, Torment is targeting Aunt May. So stakes are going to be raised. We'll see it. Does Aunt May die? I'm not sure, but this was a pretty solid issue. Again, some of the Joe Kelly's humor doesn't really work for me, but I'm still intrigued about Torment's backstory. The artwork's been great throughout the series, so I thought this issue was pretty enjoyable. So that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 26. And yeah, that was it. So that's another episode of Single Issue Sunday. So let me know if you read any of these books, your thoughts in the comments, and leave a like on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And yeah, that was it. So again, this is Chris Chats Comics. I'm Chris Gonzalez, and I'm out. Peace.